Now, what does this have to do with the moment that we're in right now, where things become so distant, things become so digital, things become so extra? We are inundated with imagery of tragedy all the time. And sometimes we don't know how to interact with it anymore. And subhanAllah, I was heartbroken at the idea of a Sudan. All eyes on Sudan. It was a hashtag. Because no one's even had their eyes on a Sudan throughout this entire tragedy of devastation. When people have to say, look at us, look at what we're going through, then that shows you the devastation in the world today. When you open up your feed on social media and you see another Palestinian's child blowing off or in pieces, it's not normal. We've seen more people in pieces in the last year than we've probably seen in our entire lives, unless we lived in a war zone. And you're trying to audition dead Palestinians for the empathy of heartless people in the West to say, look at this, you hypocrites. Look at this. This is your money. These are your weapons. This is your policy. Look, look, look. And eventually it gets exhausting. You don't know what to do with that anymore. At this point now, what do I do when I'm inundated with these images? And at this point, I'm just shut off. I can't even look anymore. I just scroll quicker. Because when I see it, it breaks me. I can't look at the video. I can't look at the picture. I don't know if I want to share it. I don't know if I want to see it. At that point, dear brothers and sisters, and this is where I want to bring us to, I want to first and foremost remind you. First and foremost, it doesn't matter how much you stare. What matters is how much you care. You're not sinful for the amount of minutes or hours that you spend watching that stuff. You're sinful for neglect. And so it's not that Allah Azza wa Jal will hold you to task for how many minutes you spent looking. Because just like if one ayah of the Quran passes you by and you stop and you read that ayah of the Quran and you deeply reflect on it and you make dua for that ayah of the Quran, if you come across just one of those images, one of those stories, and you stop and you make dua, you have the name of that person, you put your phone to the side, you put your computer away, and you make dua, and you exert that brokenness and emotion into a sincere supplication with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if the name of that person was mentioned, you mention that person's name in your dua, and you connect to that person just like you would have gotten the news if your own son or daughter just died. Then that is far more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than. You're not tasked for that. You don't have to do that part. And I'm not saying neglect it altogether, nor am I inviting selfishness. Look, there is a reality here that it's important for us to consume of it what is necessary to activate us and to spread awareness. But you're not tasked with a certain amount here. You're tasked with how much you care. You're tasked with how much you do. You're tasked with how much you allow that to activate you in a certain way. And if it shuts you off at some point, that's not where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's barrier is. It's not where the threshold is met. But don't neglect it altogether. Don't neglect it altogether. Also, don't scroll, and this is the algorithm of the devil. It is the algorithm of shaitan. That you scroll from people dying and crying to people laughing and enjoy. You scroll from devastation to complete meaningless nonsense. That's often degenerate. Degenerate nonsense. And that's how the algorithm feeds you. Because it desensitizes you and it makes you indifferent to it all. That's not who we are. Don't scroll from the dead baby to a laughing idiot. Scroll from the dead baby to some moments with the Quran and dua. Go from that image to a moment of reflection. Because otherwise that social media is going to kill whatever is left of your fitrah, just like it's doing for everything else. Whatever is left of your natural goodness will go with that. Don't stop that human element that Allah Azza wa Jal put inside of you to meaningfully engage when you do see. It's far more beloved to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.